great opportunity for you. Please listen carefully to what is shared with you this afternoon, and please feel free to ask questions. Okay, so you are welcome to post on the chat during the presentation, and we will also have a formal Q&A session towards the end. All right. So without any further ado, at this point, I'm going to hand over to Mr. Creolin Pillay, who's going to be giving you a short presentation on a very interesting sounding topic. So Creolin, over to you.
Awesome, thanks. Let me put my screen up and then we can get into it. Just confirm if you can see everything on your side.
Yes, your screen is sharing. Thanks. That's great. Thanks.
Okay, cool. I think before I start, welcome everybody. I think it's nothing short of amazing to show what's happening on the inside of the corporate world. I myself used to be a math and stats student at UKZN. And I think at that point, if I sort of had an idea of what's happening in the corporate world, like I do now, it would have made a lot more sense when I was trying to understand how these models are going to be used, and so forth and so on. Okay, so something we're going to present today, or I'm going to present today, is called the Analytics Engine Room. The Analytics Engine Room is a use case that's currently live in my team. So specifically to collections, credit collections, and credit analytics within FNB, right? Within this engine room, there's three components. There's the brain, there's the heart, and there's the eyes. Okay. The brain is known to be the analytics, your machine learning models, be it parametric or non-parametric models, logistic regressions, linear regressions, all of your different strategic tools. There's a concept called predictive strategic analytics, which is a combination of predictive analytics together with business rules that has been running in the bank or any industry for that matter for a long period of time. That works, right? Sometimes you don't always need a predictive model, but the combination of the two is something that's called predictive strategic analytics. A lot of that sits within the brain. From a heart perspective, it's the data processing and enablement. Your data engineers, those that aspire to be data engineers, data architects, solution specialists, none of it is possible from a machine learning perspective, from a modeling perspective, from a strategy perspective, if you don't have the right data, if you don't have the right processes in place, following the right procedures, making sure you're following governance, following the POPI Act and all of these different data regulations that come with it. At the same time, the streaming of the data, the speed of the data, monitoring and automation, all of that sits there. It's the heart and function of analytics. And picture it as a body. Without the heart, the blood that flows through each and every part of all your organs, each and every part of your body is coming from that heart, right? In the same light, picture the blood as basically being data, and this data then is spreading, right? And in order to get to the brain to make decisions from an analytics perspective, you need the proper source of data, clean data, and so forth. Then the business intelligence part, which is critical, right? We call it the eyes. You can say eyes and ears, but let's leave it as eyes for now. It's the oversight. It's to understand what I've done from an analytics perspective. What models have I put in? Is it working? Is it still relevant? Are the models, as data changes with customer behavior, as data changes on a daily, monthly, weekly, yearly, quarterly perspective, the model I built 6 years ago, the model I built 3 months ago, the model I built yesterday, is it still relevant today? Is it still performing at the measures that we expect it to? For those of you in the stats area, I know you'll look at R squared, Gini, AIC, all of these different measurements to compare models. So also bringing in champion challenger models, so models running in the back end. This gives you the oversight, right? How is the business performing? All of that sits within the business intelligence perspective. So this engine room is made up of these three components, right? We're going to go into the first one, which is the heart, which, as I said, is one of the most important elements within data and analytics, be it if you be in a bank or anywhere, right? But specifically this use case to my team, and I'll explain what's happening here. So, as I said, the heart is going to pump through all of the right data through the right sources on the right platforms, right? So, currently in the engine room, the heart service is a 24-hour service, meaning automation of codes running and models running 24 hours, proper support. You got different automotive tools. You can use SaaS Management Console if you're using SaaS. There's other automotive platforms that you can use for R and Python. You can use Power Automate. You can use many other tools depending on the platform that you are using at that point in time. In this use case, we're using SaaS Management Console. What it'll do is basically we have a lot of data engineering scripts and architectures that we follow. We will create the relevant data sources, clean data, make sure it's prepared adequately for the models. That normally happens in your development stage. And when it gets to the heart, it's already in production, which then means it'll be automated with, you can see something like 231 processes that run 24/7 currently in this team, right? There's also the component of staying compliant, making sure we don't send data that's not supposed to be sent, making sure data is protected. And at the end of the day, you have customers that sign agreements with you. So you have to make sure you're protecting their data. You're not necessarily just sharing the wrong data. There's modeling standards when you get into the corporate world that you also have to follow, where winning such cases. And then data accuracy also very important. It's likely that between mainframe and when it gets to a data source that there's issues. So having QA checks automated from analytics perspective, making sure the data is adequate before it even gets to the model or the strategic planning. Future plans has to be also involved, has to also evolve from this team or this part of the team, which is what's the next phase. So if you're going to Copilot, if you're going to use large language models like Llama, I don't know how many of you use Llama 4.2 or 3.8, and you got the list goes on, right? So making sure that you still abreast with what needs to happen in the future by basically knowing what you currently have. So analyzing and understanding which processes take too long on the current platform, where can we improve? How can you get things to run faster, get models to run in real time, get models to run closer to the time frame that makes sense for business as opposed to just running at any given point. That sits in the heart. So the heart basically runs the show. And from the heart, we're going to go on to the brain, which I find is a bit more exciting from a modeling and analytics perspective. So there's six components. I listed a few, but we're going to just talk through them, right? Currently in the engine room, the decisioning happens at the brain. So this is, for example, credit collections perspective, from a credit collections perspective. So a customer owes you money, you need to know how to contact them, when to contact them, what type of strategy you want to use to contact them. And you got 10,000 customers or 100,000, or you can even say a million, depending on whatever number. So we call it X. So you got an X amount of customers that owe you money, but you only have um, a limited amount called Y of capacity and manpower that can contact these customers, or capacity from digital platforms and chatbots that you can use, right? So how do you strategize? How do you prioritize? How do you make sure you get the right customer at the right time to bring the right profit back home, right? So a couple of things that has landed in the brain is one. I'm sure many of y'all have used clustering modeling techniques. So you'll see there's risk segmentation, so segmenting customers based on risk. So you'll use things like a cluster model, for example, or any unsupervised modeling technique that you can use. But generally speaking, a more traditional method would be something like a clustering model to help you segment the right customers. Then you also want to try and understand if a customer can cure. So the meaning of cure basically means fully recover out of debt. What's the likelihood of that? Now, here you have scenarios of using parametric or non-parametric modeling techniques. So you can use a parametric like logistic regression. It's cure, not cure binary effect. Depending on your distribution of your data and all of that, if you're following a parametric technique where you're going to have to sort of follow the rules and regulations. So NIID, if I remember correctly, normally independent and identically distributed data points and error terms. So that's parametric. A more interesting one would be if you use techniques like random forest, which is less conducive, but more on the non-parametric side, where it's a bunch of decision trees, and that's bringing in some machine learning modeling in there, right? The same will go for point 3 and 5. You'll see point 3 and 5 is probability of payback, 1 and 2. So trying to understand if a customer can pay back, but what percentage can he pay back? So you'll have two models, early stage and late stage. Here you could even use a survival model if B, where you're trying to understand the time of an estimated payback, right? But in this case, yeah, again, you can go in with like logistic models or non-parametric decision trees or random forests. And the best thing I think when building the brain is when you get to these type of models, you're open to testing 3 or 4 or 5 or even more models if you're using like those Python packages. I tend to be a little bit more old school where you try to get to first principles um, and test the models out and weigh them against each other to know which one is better performing as a just using a package that spits it out for you, especially coming into your grad years because you want to try and utilize the knowledge that you've gained through campus on using things like R squared, Gini, AIC, all of these different matrices. Then number 4 is the ability to pay, which I think is a really cool model. The ability to pay model is something like where we look at, uh, yes, this customer is likely to pay. He has a segment which we let's call it high risk, but does he have the ability to pay and the willingness to pay, right? So we try to measure willingness and ability by looking at indebtedness, risk segmentation, and all the other models together with external features that we look from a customer behavioral perspective. So I think it's a really cool model. Yeah, it's multiple techniques. It's a clustering model. It's a forest that runs before the clustering. It's a clustering then pushes into a forest, and then you have something that's called a penalization decision tree that runs where we penalize the model for every for every false positive um, or false negative, but different penalization methods, and then retrain the model continuously in the backend through the heart, which is automated. And then obviously always improving over time, right? So I think it's a really cool one. And then payment projection is similar to like if you had to look at things like survival analysis or trying to understand how long he'll pay, how long he'll take to pay or she'll take to pay, and what estimated amount using linear. So some pretty cool techniques or things that you've come across in campus for the data science and stats students that you probably learned, I think, from second year onwards. So a lot of what you do learn does come about within this part of analytics, but it's not end all be all, and that's your only day job, right? You still got the heart, which you have a lot of analytics students that move into data engineering or computer science students that move into data engineering and data architecture, which is vital because without that, there is no models, right? Then we talked about the I, which is something we call the reporting hub. Very simplistically, I said the I tells you how well you're doing, right? So you put in all these models. Yes, let's perhaps say that you actually tested your model on the same data that you trained it, right? Which is a flaw. Then it's somewhat of data leakage, or if you had any sort of data leakage um, while building the model. Then when you put the model into production, the performance of the model is far less than what you had in at development stage. The only way you realize this is by the reporting hub. You need to know how your models are performing and how it's performing. and whether things need to be changed. Apart from just modeling, you have business decisions, you have KPIs and scorecards of staff performance. For example, if you look at sales, if you look at people collecting, how well are they collecting? Are they having the right conversation with the customer? You also have things like storage, data storage. So you have a limited amount of storage. So you can't be building models that take up large capacity only to give you like a 1% lift in performance. So you need to weigh up how much we're paying for data storage relative to how the models are performing. So the I, in essence, basically gives you an overall holistic view of, are we doing the right thing at the right time? Are we treating the customer correctly? And are we performing as a business appropriately given what we've implemented and how the business is on a day-to-day basis? So critical as well. Something we introduced which goes a little bit above and beyond. I took out the name there. I think there's a bit of a similarity name when I look at the UKZ and chatbot. But yes, we introduced using Copilot and Olama models that you can use through R or Python. Um, and what happens here is we brought in some sort of chatbot that's an assistant to staff, right? So you have roughly, let's say, and let's call it, you got an X amount of customers, and in your day you don't have the time to go through each one to understand, okay, what do I need to do? Or this is what the customer is requesting, I'm not sure what to do. Any question related to products, procedures, and customer related things in the credit collection space, there's a chatbot that will sit on Microsoft Teams. You'll go and chat to this chatbot. The chatbot will basically tell you how to do whatever you need to do. You'll give the customer's account number or customer number, and it will tell you the problem with the customer, how to approach him, what do we think from an analytical perspective in plain English. So perhaps he's high risk, he's not likely to cure from all of those models, but we assume from the survival model, it'll take about 2 months to recover, for instance. All of that will be then transferred in plain English to talk to the analyst, basically saying, okay, approach this customer in this manner. This is a good customer. He's been with us over a certain amount of years. He's going through financial strain. He just got retrenched or he lost his job. Try and offer him this type of solution, so forth and so on. So it's your end product that brings all the analytics and hard work that's sitting in the engine, from data streaming and pulling the data right to you building your models, um, getting all of that from an analytical perspective, bringing it into plain English to have the right conversation with the right customer. The aim of this is to be you're still running a business at the end of the day, right? So you can know all the stats in the world, you can know all the comsa in the world, you can know all the maths in the world. But if you don't know how to bring that to a level where somebody in the branch needs to have a discussion with the customer, then it's pointless. So it's a matter of bringing all of this knowledge that is put in to build all of these technical and wonderful, intriguing models back down to reality, and bringing it back down to a conversational method such that the customer can relate, understand, and you can provide help to the customer, right? The aim is always provide help. The aim is how can we help you? The aim is to bring the best service across any other bank. So all we're doing here is we're using analytical methods, bringing it right down to conversational to make sure that the customer gets the right help at the right time. Cool. That's basically what our engine room looks like. It's a small slideshow of just giving you insight on what's happening here, and how things are from a analytical perspective, how we bring all of this together for what you see from a conversation in the bank, but what's running in the back end prior to even having that conversation. Yeah, so to end it off, I think just touching on the brain, the heart, the eye, which makes up the engine room. This engine room will talk from data distribution and architecture right to BI, reporting, and modeling. Cool. I hope that makes sense and gives you some sort of insight. Awesome.
Thank you very much, Creolin. Um, Sorry. Thank you very much, Creolin. That was a very, very interesting talk. So I'm sure the students found it very useful. Students, if you have got any questions at this point, I suggest that you post them on the chat for now so that we can just keep a record of them. Mr. Pillay needs to leave shortly for a meeting, but we will take note of your questions and we will share those questions with Mr. Pillay at a later stage. All right. So yes, hopefully students, that's given you some insight into day-to-day operations at FNB from an analytical perspective and how some of what you are currently learning about as you are working through your degrees actually gets translated into the real world, into practice. So I hope that this has excited you, motivated you to keep working hard, and perhaps inspired you to look for an opportunity to work at FNB one day. So at this point, I'm going to introduce you to Ms. Joanna Preston, who is from the HR team at FNB. And she's got some information to share with you today. So, Joanna, I'll hand over to you at this point.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much for having us. Bit of an echo. Thank you, Mr. Pillay. I'm giggling because we're very informal at FNB and everyone is on a first name basis. But I appreciate it might be different at other corporates. So I'm Joanna. I have the best job in the world. I head up the young talent practice at FNB. And we get to spend time with all you guys on campus, chat to you a little bit about FNB. So I just wanted to take a little bit of time to give you a little bit of insights about the actual graduate program. What happens when you come in, and I actually have a couple of videos from our current graduates, just so that you can actually hear from the horse's mouth, not just myself as a recruiter. So I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully we'll be able to have a look. Yeah, I'm going to start off with a video. I think just interesting to note all the pictures on the slideshow you see is actually our graduates. We don't use models. We use our current grads to showcase. I'm just going to also remember to share, hold on one second, the actual sound as well, since I have a video. Okay.
Hey. Here we go again. I'm Adia Mansing and I am currently working in the credit card team under Spend. So a positive has definitely been my team. Everyone is super friendly and helpful and always is there. If I'm stuck, they'll help me, send me something, and they're always encouraging. A challenge would be balancing studying, working and living life, but I'm navigating that. The graduate program is supporting me via the TNCO Training Network Company, and they come and talk to us and give us advice on how to behave professionally, navigate corporate politics, also about thinking futuristically, which has been helpful, especially in my role. And we can always go to the Future League leaders and ask them for help if we're struggling. So yeah, that support is really helpful. If I could go back and talk to myself 6 months ago, I would definitely tell myself to stay positive and believe in myself, as well as just enjoy the journey, and every mistake I make is a learning. I plan to keep learning and end the year off strong on a positive note, as well as use my bonus to go traveling.
Right. So just a little bit of context as to why we hire graduates. It's really around what makes you special. It's your ability to break rules, shift paradigms, and shatter expectations. It's your understanding of the world around you, what it is made of, and how it can be taken apart and put back together again. What makes it changeable? It's your power to challenge, change, and disrupt. So this is just a little bit around the grad program. We call it Grow for Change. As you heard from Adia, there's a lot of learning that takes place, a lot of support. If any of you are currently in your final year of studies and are keen to throw your hat in and you haven't yet done so, our applications will close soon, the 29th of August, but you can find the applications either on our career site under the FNB graduate program. Here is also the QR code. And another spot just to go and have a look is a LinkedIn Live page. So it's not just LinkedIn, it's LinkedIn Live, and there's a specific one for graduates. So just going to try and anticipate a couple of questions that we typically get asked for. So our process, this is what it typically looks like and how long it takes. Our applications start, they open between February and August, as I've said. Everyone goes through, who gets shortlisted, goes through an online assessment battery that typically takes place between May and September. And then it's an agile process. So as results come through, successful applicants get invited to a first round interview with the graduate team. And here we help you figure out where you might fit in with your career aspirations. And then the final stage is a business interview. And we basically share the profiles with the business units, and they select and obviously do the final interview. If someone hasn't been successful with a business unit, we do send them for other business unit interviews. So we try to make sure to give everyone lots of opportunity to get invited as part of the graduate program. So just a little bit about the magic of FNB. This is something that everyone talks about. This is what keeps everybody happy and working and I suppose productive and wanting to work at FNB. And that's this thing called culture. And that's something that you're probably going to hear a lot about from employers. And it's a bit of a strange thing when you haven't worked before, but it really relates to how people work together, how your boss treats you, how you engage with colleagues, with superiors, with other teams, all of those kind of things. It's like the personality of your spouse one day. So it's very, very important. We have a very collaborative culture. We call it owner-manager. What that really means is that there isn't like one central credit department or one central risk department. The business is segmented. We call it a federated model, and each segment caters to a customer segment, and there's smaller business units. Each of them has a CEO, and they have quite a lot of freedom to select which work needs to be done and how to deliver it. And it creates quite a lot of opportunity to deliver on things a lot faster and be quite innovative, as you can imagine. And on an individual basis, it really allows you to not be micromanaged and have an opportunity to work on interesting solutions that have an impact in the real world. So it's almost like our CEOs and our team leaders are almost entrepreneurs running their own businesses, which is very, very exciting. Some of the things that are important that differentiate working at FNB, I think obviously everybody gets a paycheck, but there's lots of things that are beyond that are quite important to your work life. So some of the things that our employees that have worked there for a long time have said that really make FNB special for them and are valuable beyond just getting a paycheck is the rewarding relationships, work that is challenging, that space to make a real difference, flexible conditions, and obviously opportunities to innovate, as well as continual training and development opportunities, a big support and focus on health and well-being, and of course time off, which goes beyond just your normal leave policy, but really looking at things like sabbaticals, which means that you take off a couple of months once you've been working for 5 years or more, and really supporting things like family time. So if you have a spouse or family member that's ill, you get family responsibility leave. So it's really a very supportive environment. I often get asked, so what does it take? What do we look for in potential recruits to be an FNB graduate? And so these are some of the characteristics. So first of all, you have to be curious. And being curious is important because it's the ability to say, I don't know everything. I want to know more. I want to ask why. But we're obsessed with mastery. So when we're trying to do something, to deliver something, we want it to be continually improved on. We're always going to try and be absolutely masterful at whatever product or process or initiative we deliver. You have to have courage. You have to be brave to try new things, to fail fast, to prototype, to innovate, and of course, to connect and work with colleagues. So that goes to my next point, which is around being a team player. Because we collaborate so much, everything that we achieve, it's as a result of a team. And of course, that means you have to have a high EQ. You have to understand yourself, how you show up, how you're experienced by others, and of course, have an understanding of other people. But we do help you along with that journey. Some of the themes that we focus on in the graduate program, as you've heard from Amandia, it's personal branding and networking, self-insight and career management. We help you learn all about how the business functions through action learning projects. So every graduate takes part in a real project that they have to develop to solve a business need. And then, of course, presentation and project management skills. These are just some of the high-level themes. There's a lot more training that goes on, but these are the core themes that we really focus on. Some of the opportunities to participate. So for those of you that are still in your undergraduate studies, every year we have our Future League Week and internships or VAC work that we run in July. So that's why it's worthwhile to apply earlier in the year, closer to sort of February and March, so that you have the opportunity to potentially get selected and invited to take part in the Future League Week. And it's basically an opportunity to really get close up and personal with the business, with the hiring business units, and really increase your chances of being selected for the graduate program. Quantify your future internship. So that is a program we support. You can actually go and Google that, Quantify Your Future. I would encourage you all to subscribe to that. It's a fantastic resource to both hear from employers who hire quants and data and technology grads, and what are some of the opportunities, what do the roles look like. There's lots of videos from graduates, a really, really fantastic resource. They run internships in January. You do have to apply to those and get selected. So again, for those of you who are in your undergraduate studies. Then from the FNB side, we do run a banking innovation showcase every April and October. For the moment, we have run it in the Cape, but we are potentially looking to scale that. So just a little bit of a sense of some of the things that we run. So I'm just going to end off with a video, and then we're going to jump into any questions you might have.
Spin. What do you want to know? Hi, my name is Amahle Mbeshu and I work for the short-term insurance as a developer. I'm part of the 2025 grad. What has been a positive for me has been the learning. I love learning, so I've been learning a lot of things, a lot of new things. And what's been challenging is the transition to the work world. So we've had a lot of graduate training professionally, like professional training, like how to network, how to build our brands, and how to, transition into the workspace. So that has been very helpful. I would tell myself 6 months ago, it's okay to not have it figured out. It's okay to learn as you go. So I plan to end the year of, I actually want to travel for the first time. Now that I'm working, I think I want to see the world.
Okay, so that was short and sweet. And yeah, I see there's some questions popping up in the chat. I'll do my best to answer those. And if you've got any questions for Creolin, happy to pass those on.
Thank you, Joanna. Right, students, don't be shy. Okay, so now is your opportunity.
Okay, so
Um,
I'll just Apalele a chance, and then I'll also read out the questions in the chat as well. Go ahead.
Hello, ma'am. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yes. My name is Apilele Pillay, and I also have went through for your graduate program, applied in February 28, and hopefully I got selected for the ODC assessment, and I think I completed it during the weekend. So I wanted to ask, what is the process during the recruitment after writing the assessment, and how long does it take once FNB usually has the results from ODC assessment I have written?
Okay, great question. So for those of you, in case you didn't hear, Apalele just wanted to know the process post-assessment and the timelines. So typically, once we get the results, the team then assigns interviews for first round interview. And that typically happens within the week or two post getting the results. Why it takes a little bit different each time is because we are still on campuses. So I will be popping into your campus next week, and the team will be in Stellenbosch still doing a career fair. So only some of the recruiters are on site doing interviews, but generally within a week or so, you would have an interview with one of the recruiters in the graduate team. Post that, then the profiles are shared with business units in line with what it is that you are keen to be doing. So if you're interested in analytics, then you will be put forward for roles in analytics. If you're interested in data engineering or technology, you will be put forward for roles in those teams. That is a really tricky one to sort of put a definite pin in the ground for, because it depends on how quickly the business unit responds. So that's a little bit of a how long is a piece of string. But the recruiters will give you an estimate to say, look, your profiles have been shared, and we will be in touch as soon as the business gives us a thumbs up for a final interview. So that's the process that's a little bit tricky and nerve-wracking. So we try to really push our business to get things going. The entire process of hiring needs to be completed by October. So there's about 100 graduates that we're looking for. So there's quite a few opportunities, which is nice and exciting. I hope that gives you a little bit of insight. I'm going to jump onto the chat here. Can a first-year student apply for the graduate program? A little bit early in first year, but I'm excited that you're excited, Zanele. What I would say, if you're in first year, I would encourage you to log on to Quantify Your Future and have a look at those really cool internships and opportunities there. When you are in second year, we will, second and third years, we do look at potential VAC work. I have to be honest, we haven't had a lot of VAC work opportunities on site in our Durban office as yet, but it is a program that's growing. What I can encourage you all to look out for is our annual data quest. I didn't mention it in the slides. I just realized I had an old version. That typically happens in May. We do advertise it across the campuses via your careers office, your lecturers. So it is quite well marketed, and that's open to anyone. You don't have to be third year, etc. It's a really amazing learning opportunity. You get to solve real world FNB analytics problems. If you're not feeling up to the task, at least you can attend the master classes and chat to some of the experts and as to how they do it. For those of you that are feeling up to the task, you can do it individually or in a team and win really cool cash prizes. We know cash is king with when you're studying. So that's for undergrads. You can apply if you're in third year at the moment. However, I do have to be honest and say that the business has shifted and is looking more towards honors. However, obviously, I've completed degrees absolutely considered. Right, MSc in Agri-Economics. hardly see agribusiness graduate post. It is a bit of a niche one. So our commercial business does have some opportunities and roles in the agri space. So we support farmers from a banking perspective, and they will often look at students with an agri background. So that they definitely are, but you're right, it's not a massive kind of vacancy numbers, I suppose, compared to others. The thing that you guys need to kind of pay attention to and think around and how you sell yourselves and your skills is, remember, whatever degree you've got has got a lot of components to it. So just because you studied something quite niche, like whether it's agriculture or ecos, there's underpinning skill sets that translate to a lot of different opportunities. So in ecos, you will do analytics. There will be some stats. There will be those kind of skills that are transferable across organizations and across different roles. So remember to sell yourself from that perspective as well. So you don't have to go into a role that's got the name agriculture in it. Absolutely, if you have not done computer science, just to my point, genetics has got lots of analytics in it, I'm sure, and research. So you have a lot of transferable skills. We, as a bank, have been hiring engineers, as an example, for many, many years. We also have had someone with a PhD in organic chemistry. So it's because we understand that there's a transferability of skills. So absolutely, you can apply. Bachelor of Business Admin, advice for you. Asindile, I also did a BA. It is a little bit more tricky to get into your high-tech businesses. What I would encourage for you is to look broader. There is a website, I'm going to put it in the chat. It's called graduateemployers.co.za. So that contains corporates and smaller companies, all of whom have graduate programs, and it's absolutely across all degrees. So I have to be honest, we have very few BA or B admin type of opportunities at the moment. We're very tech and data heavy. But that website has opportunities across the entire spectrum of different employers. So I'd encourage you to check that out. Which campuses am I going to? Let me quickly check for you. I think it will be Westville. It will be the Westville campus. Yeah, I'm happy to check it and confirm, but I'm pretty sure it's a technology prezo as well. PhD in mathematics for Shizzle. We love our math students. So that's, yeah, gosh, that's super brainy. PhD in maths, goodness me. But we love hiring people way smarter than ourselves. That's how we make the business a success. Someone with a year experience, yes, we do consider students with up to a year experience. Everybody sometimes makes a decision that maybe isn't ideal for them, so you're still fresh enough to be considered for the graduate program. Cybersecurity governance, that's very specific. We do have roles in cybersecurity, and the cybersecurity team does look for it. I know it's a very sexy topic for technology students. It is quite a niche team, but we do hire annually at least 2 or 3 grads into that space. I'm not sure if I understand your question, Stimbile. Do you have anything in cybersecurity governance from industry? I'm not sure exactly what you mean there. And then BCom ISTN. If you could maybe voice over what IST is, it informatics? Or is it not a graduate program? So entry-level roles. Look, entry-level roles are tricky because it's the typical conundrum you run into, right? It's a junior role, but they still want someone with 2 to 3 years experience. So it is tricky to get into cybersecurity, not through the grad program, because they will be looking for someone with experience, and that's always difficult. Again, what I would encourage you guys to check out is companies like Capacity or We Think Code. really cool, and I think another one is Umuzi, fantastic incubators. So they give you, I think Umuzi in particular gives you experience, so that you actually beef up your CV. Sometimes it is with an employer, sometimes it's on a project. It's a really fascinating initiative. If you guys Google that. Capacity is another NGO that takes on students, graduates, and trains you up in a specific technology, and then helps you get an internship with an employer. And We Think Code is similar to that. BCom in general, students, what do you have for them? So again, our commercial business does have some opportunities in roles that we call client portfolio analysts, and that's helping our business bankers engage with our small and medium businesses. So we do occasionally have a small amount between 6 and 8 for our BCom general students in that context, and that's more of a typical banking role. I'd like to know what cloud technologies and tools you use in the data engineering side. So we're pretty open across all the platforms. I know we use Azure. I know we use, I forgot the other ones. Please forgive me. I know I was in a recent meetings where the guys were talking about that they're quite broad in terms of what we use. If you can name them, I will point out to the ones I recognize. So I know that we definitely use Azure as one of them. Information systems and technology, Selena, yes, for sure. That would go into our tech space, or into roles like system analysis or business analysis. So that's where or even the coding side, if that's what you're interested in. Process engineering, process review. It depends on what you're keen on, but we definitely do have opportunities for that degree. We do hire students from the boot camps. We have hired about 16 interns from Capacity. That was our first kind of pilot intake. It was very, very exciting. One of those students is now going to attend a reward trip. They've got nominated for being a top performer, and they're going to Rio de Janeiro in September as part of their reward trip, and they came from the Capacity Internship Program. This year, we hired 70 from Capacity, as we had such a great success with our initial 17. So that is in progress. So definitely great success from Capacity. We have worked with We Think Code before, and we're looking at working with Muzi on top as well. Lots of really top employers hire students from the boot camps. So it's a really great way to boost your CV and to get connected with employers. Whew, that was a lot of talking. I think I covered all the questions, but if you do have any more that you didn't think of today, you're welcome to pass it on to me directly, and I'll pop you an email to respond. Otherwise, come and see me on campus at Westville next week. I'll tell you the time quickly. That it's at 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock in the morning, and it's the MSCS, well, computer science class presentation.
Thank you very much, Jo, for your time and for all of the information that you've shared. I'm sure you can tell from all the questions that the students are very excited, very inspired, very interested. So yes, so students, as Jo has mentioned, she will be present on the Westville campus in person next week, Wednesday.
I think it's Tuesday, 20.
Sorry, yes, Tuesday, correct?
Tuesday,
correct.
26, yeah.
Yeah, Tuesday at 10. So if there are further questions, you can head towards the computer science seminar room. All right, so I think we'll end it there.
Thank you so much.
Great. Okay. Thanks so much, Jo. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you next week. I will see you next Tuesday.
Likewise, looking forward to it. Thanks.
All right. Thanks.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.